Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, depending on where you are watching from. Welcome to today's conversation. My name is Monica Kamunde, aka Magical, and I change people's lives by offering financial advice and financial solutions. As we pursue our conversation about protection further, I would encourage you to have a look at the previous videos so that you bring yourself up to speed with what we are talking about. So today I'd like us to ask ourselves a question. Who needs to buy a life cover? Or the question is, do I need a life cover? And so I'll discuss um, a number of people who require to purchase a life cover. And if you're in any of those categories, you need to consider looking for a service provider and purchasing a life cover for yourself. Let's dive in. The first kind of a person who needs a life cover is if you are a breadwinner. A breadwinner simply puts bread on the table for the family. That is food. So, if you're the kind of a person that in an event of your absence, your family will sleep hungry or they will suffer financially, you need to purchase a life cover. The second kind of a person who needs a life cover is if you have a young family. If you have a young family, most of the time that comes with children involved. And you will agree with me, there are a lot of expenses involved in that situation. You need money for school fees, you need money for medical expenses, and especially when kids are young, because they're still building their immunity. The bills for the medicals are quite high. So it's important that you have a life cover because in an eventuality that you are not there, it means then that either the family will suffer to cater for these expenses or the remaining spouse will have to take care of those bills single-handedly, which is quite straining. The other kind of a person that needs a life cover is if you have not accumulated enough assets that your family can live off. If you're not there, then you need a life cover. Enough assets such that your family can continue with the same lifestyle you had given them without having to change. For people who have accumulated assets, enough assets, then in that case, that person might not need a life cover. But I still insist that even if that is the case, you need a life cover because it will help provide immediate cash to help your family go through the administration of the estate. So the other person who needs a life cover is if you want to leave a legacy for your family. A financial legacy is the most important tool you can hand over to your family. Have you ever asked yourselves why do people cry during burials? People cry for different reasons. Some people cry, yes, because emotionally they feel the loss, but there are people who cry when they imagine the kind of a financial burden they will find themselves in because of your absence. So take a life cover, leave a legacy for your family. How do you want your family to remember you? So the other kind of a person who might consider having a life cover is if you have a business partner. You're in a business with a partner. So what you do is you take a life cover against both of your lives, and then you write each other as the beneficiary. So in any eventuality, the lump sum or the sum assured is paid to the partner that is remaining. And so what happens is that this helps to protect the assets in the business so that you don't have to liquidate maybe some shares to give to the family that is left behind. And meanwhile, maybe you've written some of your children or your family members as shareholders in that business. So that protects the business and ensures the continuity of that project. The other kind of a person who needs a life cover is if you have loans or you have a mortgage. Most of the service providers will require that for them to give you a mortgage, you have a life cover. A life cover ensures that in an event that you pass on without having completed paying for the loan, then the cash payout is used to clear paying for the loan. So this ensures that your family does not have to maybe start selling properties or using their cash to then clear the loan for you. Other loans like students loan, it could be motor vehicle loans, could be business loans that you are taken and then God forbid you pass on without having cleared that. Your family is left managing your debt. So empower your family by ensuring that you have a life cover that they can fall back on to help you clear these loans. And finally, the other kind of a person who needs to purchase a life cover is if you're divorced or you are a single parent. This is because the biggest responsibility, and especially if there are children involved, falls squarely on your shoulders. So you can take off that risk by having a life cover to ensure that your children or your beneficiaries, the people who depend on you financially, do not suffer in an event of your demise. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you've been wondering if you need a life cover, if you fall in any of those categories, you sure need a life cover. I forgot to indicate also that if you're intending to start a family, and hence it's important for young people who are intending to start a family in future to buy their life cover now. And one of the advantage of buying their life cover now is that it's cheaper. As explained in the previous video, age is a factor that is considered when factoring the premiums for a life cover. So the younger you are, the more affordable your premiums will be. And so, ladies and gentlemen, if you fall in any of those categories as highlighted before, I would recommend that you consider looking for a service provider who will take you through the process of procuring a life cover for your family. Thank you.